outside of the relationship you have with yourself, the longest relationship you are ever going to have is with your life partner. So not only do you need to make sure you pick them very wisely, you also need to make sure that you're not neglecting that relationship. Because if you're anything like me and my clients and you're super ambitious and you're chasing after big goals, one of the first people that you kind of push to the side when life gets busy is usually your spouse or the person you are in your relationship with, right? They're kind of the easiest to push aside because they support us. You know, they're probably not going to leave you, right? But at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you are nurturing those relationships and that you are not putting it to the side because you're chasing after a goal. No matter if you're both chasing after huge goals or not, it's really important to make sure that you are really showing up for your partner and making time for love. So that is what we're going to be talking about in today's podcast episode, making time for love. And I'm going to be sharing 7 habits that have led me to have a healthy marriage while chasing goals. And even if you're not married yet, this is going to be really, really helpful for you because if you are in a relationship or striving to be in a healthy relationship, these habits are going to be things you're going to make sure you know and have in your back pocket so that you can have the best relationship ever while still chasing your goals and going after everything you want in your life. Now, today, when this episode is airing, it is my 3-year wedding anniversary. Woo! I'm so excited to have made it to 3 years and to be just learning so much along the way. And I'm going to go into a little bit of the background of my relationship. I'm going to go into depth with the habits that we have implemented over the years because we're married 3 years, but we've been together for about almost 8 years. And I'm also, of course, going to talk about time management in relation to not just productivity, of course, but making time for what matters most. And today we're digging deep into one of the things that matters most in life, our relationships, our love. So we're going to dive into how to protect time for your relationships, even in a busy season, because you don't need to push them aside. You may need to just adjust how much time you're spending. We're also going to talk about the personal development growth that happens in a marriage and what you learn over the time. And also, we're going to talk about those habits that I talked about that have helped me stay connected to my partner. And I hope help you to be able to stay connected to your partner and not just feel like you're just parents or you're just together to be together or you're just roommates, right? We want to have deep, meaningful, amazing, and empowering relationships. So let's get into it. But first, welcome back to the Fire Inside podcast. I'm your host, Sade Kelly. I know that there's a fire in your heart and ambition in your soul. You know what you want to do and you know you need to make a change to get there. So how do you do it with more ease? That is what we tackle on this podcast, all things personal development, time management, and leveling up so you can live as your highest self. Now, I am really excited about today's episode specifically because usually when we talk about time management, at least when I see people talk about time management online, they don't usually talk about love and relationships. And that's what I think makes me different. I like to talk about all the different things we need to make time for and what matters most. And for me as a wife, a mom, a time management coach, I have clients, I have friends, I have family that I have to take care of. But one of the top relationships I'm taking care of outside of the relationship with myself, of course, because we got to shout out our self-care and our relationships with ourselves, is of course my marriage. I always say that whatever you want to take serious and things you want to happen in your life must be put on your calendar. They must be a part of your daily routines and your schedules. So when I'm talking to clients, one of the first things that we always talk about is why they aren't making enough time for self-care, dating, time with their partners, time with their extended family members and friends, meeting new people, right? Those are one of the things that people often come to me and they say, those are things I want to be doing, but I don't know how to make that happen because I'm doing all these things at work, all these things in my business, all these things to grow and chase after these fitness goals, nutrition goals, whatever our big goals are. And often we're pushing aside the relationships that matter most because we think we're going to have time once we get there, right? But if you're anything like me, if you're an ambitious person, there's always going to be a new goalpost that you're going after. So we can't think like that. We need to make it where we can still chase after goals because we're probably never going to stop chasing after goals. I mean, I see myself as someone who's probably going to be 96, still checking things off a list of off a list somewhere of what I want to achieve in my 96th year, right? That's just the type of personality that I have. And if you're watching this, you probably have a personality like that too, where you still like to chase things and you want to have a purpose in your life, but you want to be able to do it in a way where you can still have a sustainable, amazing relationship. So if you are not already blocking time for your marriage, I want you to do that. Block time for your relationships. We should block time for everything that's important. Our work, our workouts, our meal prep, our connection time has to be in our schedule, because your schedule really reveals your values. It exposes not only what you care about and your core beliefs, but it also exposes your time blindness, like your blind spots. Where are you not spending intentional time? That is often shown in your schedule. So if you look at your schedule, just do a nice reflection or overview, you're going to be able to see where you're not really maximizing your time. And if you don't keep a schedule, I promise you, you're going to want to do a time audit, because you're going to want to be conscious of where your time is going, especially when it comes to love and relationships. How much time are you really spending on it? And for some of us, we probably don't even track it, but that's something I want you to be intentional about, especially as you're listening to this episode. I want you to start thinking about, like, well, how much time am I spending in my relationships? Am I going on dates? Am I having intentional connection time with my relationships? Like, do I even have good relationships in my life? Am I nurturing them the way I would like to be? Am I a good friend? Am I a good spouse? Like, this can really tie to any type of relationships, even though I'm going to hone in on love and romantic relationships. I want you to still be thinking about all the different relationships that you have. So like I mentioned in the intro, I've been with my husband for going on 8 years. We actually met in high school when we were 17. He transferred to my high school senior year. We were in the same class. Like, we had this class called Dear Class together. And that's where we initially met. And we were just really cool. We were friends for a while. We both kind of went our separate ways. We didn't date in high school. We're not high school sweethearts, but we did meet when we were 17. We both went our separate ways. I went to college. He stayed home and worked. And then throughout college, we kind of talked here and there, but we both were in relationships. It was so funny. We both were in relationships for about like three and a half years. And we both had broken up with those significant others around the time when we reconnected. And that was around like the time, like senior year of college was about to end for me. And I had moved back home, and we grew up maybe like 10 minutes away from each other. So we had reconnected, and it was such a random story where literally he FaceTimed me out of nowhere. I mean, like, this is when FaceTime first came out. I feel like I don't remember how long FaceTime had been out, but it was a thing where like you didn't just get on FaceTime. Usually you would, coordinate a date and like plan to be on FaceTime. And I'll never forget this day. It was like sometime in March. I was home for spring break senior year. And he FaceTimed me out of nowhere. And I had just gotten my braids done. And if you are from New York, and if you're a woman and you get braids done, and I went to get my braids done in Harlem. They were super tight. It was the first day. It was like a couple hours after I had just gotten them done. My head was hurting. I was literally laying down in the dark. And this man FaceTimes me, and I'm like, well, I'm not about to miss this call. So I remember picking up, and we were just talking and talking and talking and talking. And I'm so glad that we actually reconnected that day, because it really changed the trajectory of like our lives. There's that trend going online right now where it's like the butterfly effect, where if you did that one thing, it kind of changed everything. And that was that one thing. I got on that FaceTime call, and it literally changed everything for us. So we ended up dating in our early 20s, and then we got married in our later 20s. And now we've been together and married for the last 3 years. So I may not be like the top relationship guru, but I do think that we have a really successful marriage so far. And I have tips that I want to share, especially around habits, around how we make time for love. So one of the first things I want to share is how we know we're not making enough time, right? So one thing I've noticed about, at least in my relationship, and you can kind of think about if this relates to your relationship as well, but when we are feeling disconnected, I've noticed that we bicker more, like we fight over little things or make sly comments about silly stuff that's so dumb, or we'll flat out say like, I don't really feel connected to you right now. What's going on? Or we'll feel like we don't really know what's going on in each other's lives, or that like we're only talking about the same surface level things here and again, and we're talking about other people's lives and we're not really talking about ours. Like, that is when I know that we're not really making enough time for each other, and that we're not being intentional about our times, when things just honestly just feel off. So if you are not making time for your marriage and your relationships, think about how it feels when you are together. Does it feel off? Do you feel like there's something missing? That is typically a sign that like you need to make more time for your relationships. And I know if you have a lot going on, it can be hard. I'm not sitting here acting like I'm going to be the person spending hours and hours on end like I would like to in my relationship, because we do have a baby, we both have businesses, like we have a lot going on, as I'm sure you do too. But we do have to remember that Making time for your relationship is a discipline. It is like anything else that you're disciplined to do. It's not just a desire that we should be doing, but it's something that we want to be disciplined, and it's an action we want to take, because I do believe that love is also an action. It's also a verb. It's something we have to act out and show. So if you are not doing that, we're going to talk about that today. I'm going to go ahead and get into these 7 time habits that will keep your marriage strong, healthy, romantic, amazing, and just thriving. So the first one, and before I get into them, I do want to say, take these with a grain of salt, right? I don't want you to think you have to do all of these things. If these don't work for you, they don't work for you. But I will say that they work for us, and I'm pretty sure they're going to work for a majority of you, because they're simple things that I think make any healthy relationship, especially any healthy marriage, thrive. So the first one is hug often. Very simple, right? Studies show that hugging 6 to 8 times a day can improve your mood, reduce stress, lower blood pressure, boost immune system, and overall just improve your well-being. It also boosts oxytocin, which is the happiness hormone. It regulates your nervous system. It deepens your connection, and it just makes you feel safe. I mean, for the ladies watching, you can't tell me you don't feel safe when you are in your man's arms. It's just something about the hug that's just like, ooh. Not only should you hug often, but hugs should be at least 20 seconds. So they say the number of hugs matters, but really it's more about like the deep connection that you have. So if you're someone who doesn't like or necessarily like hugs, like I'm not a big hugger. I don't always like to like hug strangers and things like that. I'm more of like, I like to only hug people I love or feel comfortable around, but I will hug if like someone's a hugger. I tend to try to be polite. But even if you aren't a hugger, I promise you, hugging your partner more is going to deepen your connection. It is going to really feel fun, and you're going to feel just more satisfied throughout the day. You're going to notice your mood feels different and better, and then you both are kind of more energized and maybe feel more connected throughout the day and just have more happy moments. I promise you, this little thing makes such a big difference. I really like to be intentional with it. And we don't necessarily count to 6 to 8 hugs. Like, I don't think it's that deep, but we are more intentional with like, okay, how many hugs can we get in the morning or before noon? Or how many hugs can we make as a part of our day or our nighttime routine, or maybe every time we're doing a transition throughout the day, like leaving in the, like getting, not leaving because we both work from home, but like, let's say one of us is going down to the office, maybe we'll hug, or the other one is coming out for lunch, maybe we'll hug, or the other one is going to get dinner, maybe we'll hug. Like just little moments where when we pass each other, maybe let's do a hug for a quick 20 seconds, 10, 20 seconds, whatever we can fit in, just to make sure that we're being intentional and we are just spending that time connecting. So it's something really, really simple, but I think it can be really, really impactful. And the science says it all. I mean, if anything, that the fact that it can boost your mood, your immune system, you lower your blood pressure, like that is just crazy to me, right? That a simple hug can make you feel that connected and make you feel that much better. The second tip is to make love often, right? So kind of pigging back off of hugging, you want to go that extra mile, right? You should be sleeping with your partner, not just sleeping next to each other, but with each other. It's so funny to be talking about this in my podcast, but I want to be real. Like, I feel like you have to be doing this often. And funny enough, when we did marriage counseling, they actually told us that we should be sleeping with each other at least 3 times a week. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you how many times you need to be doing the do in your marriage, but I will say that you want to make sure it's often, because when it's not, you also, once again, feel disconnected. You don't feel like happy on a regular basis. Maybe you will bicker a little bit more. Maybe you just like feel off. Like, you can pick how many times, but I do feel like it needs to be often, because in a marriage, you want to make the time for that time together, right? Because sleeping together boosts your connection. It improves your sleep. It releases those feel good hormones. It's just enjoyable. Everybody likes it, right? Like, so let's just make sure that we're making more time for each other in that way as well. Because when you're busy, desire doesn't always come first, and we don't always make the space for each other to be romantic, right? And I do want to make sure that that is something that you're intentional about. So when it comes to scheduling it, so for some people, that's their thing. I don't think you necessarily need to do that if it's not your thing. If you're like, oh my gosh, that's so weird, I'm not about to put sex in my calendar. Like, I get that. I'm not against it though, because I feel like anything that's important should be in your calendar once again. But for me, at least for us, I think it's just like something that we make sure we're cognizant of. So like every couple of days, we're like, okay, maybe somebody will initiate or the next person will initiate. I think it's something that can be fun, or maybe it's something you can add on to like your date nights. Maybe you're like, okay, well, we know when we go out to dinner or we have a lunch date night or we're going on to a concert, whatever, we know what's happening after that or what's happening maybe before that. Hey, whatever you like to do. Or maybe, certain mornings when you have a bit more time before the kids get up, or like maybe a little lunchtime thing or in the evening, whatever you can find to be spontaneous, or to just make sure you have a little bit of structure, that you're keeping it top of mind, but also that it's fun and it's just happening, right? I know sometimes, especially I will speak for women, I get it. Sometimes we're super tired. We're not in the mood. Our hormones are all over the place, but we know when we're in the mood, most of the time our men are going to be in the mood as well, right? So let's just make sure that we're conscious of making time for those romantic actions that we want more of in our life, because it's going to just make us both feel much better and much more connected. Another thing I'll mention is you really want to know your partner's love language. I think that takes it like the extra mile. Like I know for me, my husband's love language is physical touch. So that's a really simple thing I can do throughout the day. And for me, my love language is words. So as long as he's just saying nice things to me, I feel so good. And then for both of us, our second love language is quality time. So we're really big on like doing intentional things together, whether it's eating meals together, going on walks, or watching a movie or something throughout the day, to just make sure that we're doing our love languages. So figure out each other's love languages if you haven't already. There's a couple different ones: quality time, physical touch, words, gifts is one of them. That's like my lowest one, so I always forget about that one. But then also acts of service is a really nice one. So what are things that you can do to spice up your romance, try new things, and just make sure that that spark doesn't die out? Because I think it's a really important part of a marriage. The third habit is pretty much a given, but it's communicate everything. I genuinely believe that you should be communicating everything in your marriage. Now, for some people, that's not their thing, but for us, we communicate everything. I mean, like everything we are thinking, expectations that we have, like anything that may potentially cause tension in the future. We're talking about it all, like from the smallest things about how our day is going or how we're feeling, to the big things that are going on in our lives, in our businesses, whatever it is, right? I really feel like open communication prevents resentment. It prevents misalignment because you feel so comfortable with your partner. So I really like to do check-ins throughout the day just to see like, how are you doing? How's your heart? Like, and when I say how's your heart, I mean like, how are you feeling? And then also like, is there anything you need from me? Is there anything that is going on that I can help with? Like, I don't know anyone who wouldn't want to hear those things throughout the day. And if you're not working in the same office or, in the same home, like how me and my husband are, you can still do those check-ins throughout the day, whether it's a text or a quick call. I promise you, your partner is going to love that. They're going to like that you are keeping them top of mind and that you're thinking about them all throughout the day. Because sometimes when people think about communicating everything, they think, oh, let's just communicate, when there's a problem. But we really want to make sure you're communicating before there's a problem, because having that open communication, I think, is like one of the most important parts of a marriage. For me and my husband, like we've always been super, super open communicators. We talk about anything from shallow, deep, in between. We just don't see we don't see anything we can't talk about with each other. And probably for some people, they look at us like, you talk about that, or you talk about this, or you say that to your wife. And it's like, for us, it just makes sense because we don't want any secrets and we don't want to feel like we can't say something to our partners. Because I think personally, and this might be controversial, but personally, I do think that the reason why sometimes your people cheat is because they don't feel safe in their relationships and they don't feel like they can talk about any and everything in their relationships. And I've always been someone that like, I want you to be able to say any and everything to me, because I know that if you love and care about me, we can get through it as long as we work together. So that is just my own personal take. I always say that relationships end when one of the other person decides they don't want to try anymore. And as long as each person is trying and able to express themselves in a safe space, I do believe that you can make any relationship work. Now, if they do something trifling, then yeah, I understand why the relationship didn't work, but you can prevent that by having that open communication. That's just my own take. Argue me if you want on that, but I truly genuinely believe that, and it works for us. So, hey, and we've been together, a little minute, 8 years. All right. The fourth habit is be best friends first. I do think that friendship builds a really deep connection between you and your partner. It leads to really deep trust and just fun. It's a mixture of being able to talk about any and everything, but also being able to laugh together, to do things with more ease, to have similar interests. Now, you're not going to have all of the same interests. And of course, sometimes you got to compromise on some things in a relationship. That's just a part of it. But you do need to have that time where you feel like you can be playful and not just always one side to your relationship. I just think that if you can't be best friends with your partner, or really at least really close friends with your partner, it's going to be really hard to last years and years on end. Like something that me and my husband used to laugh about in the beginning before we got married when we were doing premarital counseling was the fact that we are going to be together for 100 years. I mean, I'm exaggerating, but you get what I'm saying. We're going to be together just with one person for a very long time. So if we don't really like each other, not just love each other, how is this going to work out? And we used to talk about that, how we should be aligned on finances, religion, our businesses and our work life, what we want to be as parents or how we want to parent our kids, how many kids we want. There was tough conversations that we had to have because it was we got to be aligned on these things, or at least got to be able to compromise and find a really nice middle, because if not, how are we going to last so freaking long? Right? And I think it's okay to not always disagree on some things, because you do disagree on things. I mean, even with your own friends, but there is still a common ground and love that you have when you are friends with someone that I think you have to have in a relationship. So just make sure that you are spending time developing that friendship as well, whether it's doing something that you both love to do, trying new things together. Make time for fun. If you can on a weekly basis, is amazing. But if you can't, maybe on a monthly or at least a quarterly basis, plan out things that are not just chores that you got to do, or not just date nights, but fun, different things that you can learn and grow with each other and do. I know for us, one of the biggest things that got us together was we started going to the gym together. When we first started dating, we would go to the gym together. We were both really into health and fitness, and it was something that we could talk about and just have fun doing together. And then eventually we both got into personal development. We would learn and read books and do our own little book studies and talk with each other. And then we started hosting events together, and it kind of just grew from there. We've always had similar interests in that way. So find what you are in interest with your partner and get back into that, because there's something that led that spark that got you guys to where you're at. So keep lighting that spark and keep it going. The fifth habit is don't tell everyone your problems, right? So this is really, really important, because I do I always say this about anything in life. If someone doesn't have what you want, take their advice with a grain of salt. So if you're getting advice from someone who doesn't have the type of marriage that you would like to have, take their advice with a grain of salt. That might make some people mad. Listen, I'm not here to make people happy. I'm here to speak my truth. And I really feel you can lead down a dark road when you're getting advice from someone who doesn't really understand your situation or only sees it from one side. And I'm grateful to say that I have amazing friends who call me out before they ever call my husband out. But I think it's really great, because I do need to be checked sometimes from a different perspective. And it's so nice to have friends who also know both of you and your partner, can kind of give really great advice, or even family members who can give really great advice. But always take it with a grain of salt, in the sense that if they are not in your relationship, always consult your partner before you take advice from any and everyone. Because I think that being able to speak with your partner and having that open discussions, having that best friend, that tight relationship with each other, is going to help you to be able to deepen your relationship, make sure you make more time for each other, and also just get over your concerns with each other first. Something that we'll do, even if we're in disagreement, is we'll make time to speak out the disagreement. So maybe in that moment, it's too heated, you're not ready to explain yourself in that moment. We like to think, okay, or we like to say, okay, let's talk at this time, or let's make time at this time to reconnect and talk about this. We don't like to let things linger. We don't like to go to sleep angry. We like to make sure that we're talking everything out, and we're not going to others to solve our issues, because at the end of the day, you can take advice from people, but they're not in your relationship, so they won't know how to actually do it. So make that intentional time to have those hard conversations, so that you can just maintain that emotional safety and do it without being distracted or being on your phone. I think that's another thing just overall, that when you're spending time with your partner and making time for your partner, especially if it's not as much time as you would like in this season, but it's something, make sure you're really intentional about that time. Put the phone away, really talk to each other, look each other in the eyes, connect, touch each other, like really feel like you're there present in the moment. It's going to make the biggest difference. When you are present with someone and really spending time that's quality, you don't need as much of it because you feel that connection and that deepness in that. Another thing we do, sixth habit, we block time out for each other. I love a shared calendar. As you can imagine, I love calendars. Now, my husband's not a big calendar person. I've gotten him slowly into calendars because now he realizes like having everything on the calendar helps him not have to remember everything. Who would have known? But we like to block time for each other because, like I said, everything that gets scheduled should be things that are important. If something is important to you, it needs to be scheduled. If you're not scheduling things start to fall through the cracks and somebody's mad, right? Like you want to make sure everything is on your calendar, that you're prioritizing time with your partner, that you're planning ahead your date nights or for your anniversaries or birthdays or other significant dates. You want to make sure that you're showing that you value your partner and you want them to also do the same for you. So have that blocked out time for each other. Make it consistent. I know for us, like we like to spend some time in the morning with each other. We like to definitely spend some time in the evening with each other. We like to at least make sure that we're touching base throughout the day, but sometimes we don't get to touch base as much as we would like. We just both are busy. Even if we work in the same office, it doesn't mean we hang out all day, right? And we both understand that. But we still make sure that we block time out for each other, at least some time out for each other every single day, because that helps foster your relationship. So make sure you are doing that if you're not already doing that. And then the last habit is to just be honest and not be afraid to call each other out respectfully. I feel like this is kind of a mixture of the different habits around communication. They kind of tie together, but this one is a bit different because I do think it's important to be able to practice being honest with each other out of a loving place, right? And I think that helps you to be able to make time for your partner, not only having that emotional safety, but being also able to just be honest with each other and let each other know that, hey, I have a busy week coming up. Here's how you can support me. And not just thinking that the person is going to know how to support you. I think that's something that we, especially as women, I will say, like sometimes we think that our men are just going to read our minds. And a lot of times I think men also do that too. But we got to stop thinking people are just going to read our minds. Like we have to be able to communicate and respectfully give feedback so that things can be really seamless in the home. Like I do think that we have to have our roles. Now I know some people like to do 50-50 for everything. That's not my take on things, but if that is yours, that is yours. But I think you got to figure out whatever your take is in your relationship. What are the roles? What do each of you do? Where can you give each other honest, really good, honest feedback so that way things can be more smooth in the home? Because what I see, especially for women, is we try to take on everything and we don't communicate what we need. And then it leads to resentment, burnout, us overdoing it when our partners are there to support us and to help us. So why don't we communicate with them and make sure that we are having that regular check-in with each other, not just about like what's going on in each other's lives, but what we can be doing better, how we can be nurturing our relationship better, how we can be loving each other better, so that we can just make sure that we're not only just making more time, but the time that we're spending together is really meaningful and enjoyable as well. So I hope that these 7 habits were helpful for you guys. So in addition to the habits that I shared, I want you to also think about these 3 questions. What would your calendar say about you and your partner? Does it share that you are spending a lot of time as much time as you would like to be spending with each other, or does it not? Does it show each other that you love each other and that you prioritize each other? Also, what small shift can you make to your week and how you're planning your week to make sure you're reconnecting and making that significant time for your significant other? The goal with this is to just make sure that you're noticing things, that you're asking yourself the right questions so that you can start leading yourself to the answers that you want so that you can make more time for love and your relationships. Remember that you're not only building a career and a business while balancing life, you're also building this life with someone else. So make sure that they feel and are a part of this journey with you. Let your schedule reflect that this week and the weeks leading after you listen to this episode. Make sure that you are not just running on autopilot anymore, but you're really prioritizing your love from now and out. If this hit home for you and you want to make time for your most important relationships, my coaching may be the perfect fit for you. I help ambitious women like yourself create systems and schedules that make room for everything that matters most to them. And I will say that I have gotten people to be in really amazing relationships. Like I've literally helped people make time for dating, to be in amazing relationships. I've helped people foster and strengthen their marriages, all byproduct of spending more time and figuring out how they can configure their time to spend more time, not only with their partners, but also with their children and other family and friends that really light them up. So if that is you, the best way to see if we're a good fit for coaching together is to book a time audit. You can find that in the show notes. And if you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to like, comment, share this with someone, as well as subscribe. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.